Welcome, everybody, to the Podcast Answers Podcast, the show where I help you start and grow your podcast, all while answering podcasting questions along the way. And today is a special day. We are talking about Rode and RodeCaster and RodeCaster Pro and Duo and the new virtual channels that are there that weren't there before. So this is something that's actually been a long time in the making, and it is something that Rode kind of hinted at, I don't know, like a year, 5 years, I don't know, a long time ago. And so essentially the idea is you already had 3 USB channels on the device. You had a USB main, you had a USB 1 chat, and a USB 2. And those are all bi-directional. They had inputs and outputs. So you could mix minus that, and you could do things like have a Zoom call, have a Ecamm live call, whatever, and not have the audio going one way out and one way in using a mix minus. And it was great for doing interviews and things like that. But the streamers who do like live gaming and things like that were crying for more virtual channels. And to be honest, I didn't quite get that. Because I was like, okay, so I have USB 1, which is my in and out for my Ecamm. I had USB chat, which I used for Zoom. And then I had a free USB, second USB, which I still also had plugged into my computer. But I wasn't even really using it a whole lot. I'm using Loopback, which allows you to aggregate software into a virtual output. And I was using that to kind of bring whatever I wanted to bring virtually into that third channel. But yesterday, Rode announced on the beta program that there is new capabilities to have 4 additional inputs to your RodeCaster. Now, these are just inputs. These are not in and out. These are just inputs. And so I do want to warn you, this is a beta version. Beta. So again, if you're not cool with running beta programs and the possibility of it having problems on your live stream or your recording or your podcast or whatever, I would not do that for this, because this is something that could crash. In fact, right as I started this podcast episode, I ended up having it crash the RodeCaster Pro 2 main multi-track was not showing up. And so I had to unplug it and plug it back in, then it showed up. So this is part of the beta program, so you do need to join the beta, and you can find those instructions on the internet to join the beta. The one thing that I was a little bit disappointed, though, was that they said this is at this time only for Windows. So you could update the firmware, like I'm running the beta firmware on my RodeCaster here, and I could get that. I could get the software, the firmware for this device, but I couldn't take use of it in my Mac because I'm using a Mac. And so I did find a hack about that will work. You do have to have some extra software, possibly, maybe not. I mean, you may have some software that you can use, but the idea of how to use it for Windows was really kind of easy. So what you do is you go ahead and to put your RodeCaster into this mode, you essentially go into once you've downloaded the firmware, you go into the settings and you go into outputs. And I'm not going to be able to do it now because I'm actually recording, but multi-track, and then you say USB 1 output, and you can turn inputs, and you can turn extra inputs on under the multi-track once you've installed this beta firmware. And so essentially for Windows, what you end up doing is you turn that on, and then you download a driver for Windows, and then you assign the virtual devices to a channel. So for instance, here under this channel here, I have the A one, and you can go into, again, I can't do it because I'm actually recording right now, but what you do is you assign that to a fader. So I've assigned, as you can see, I've assigned A to this, well, not that fader, sorry, this fader here, this is A. And so you have 4 virtual channels, and the one is going to be, they're called, it doesn't really matter what you do with them because they're all the same. They're all inputs, but they have A, B, gaming, and music. And so if you can see here, I've got like a music icon, a game icon, an A, and a B. Those are the new 4 virtual channels that exist on the new RodeCaster. And so once you've assigned them to a fader, whether it be virtual or fader or physical fader, for Windows, you go in and you use it. You essentially go into the sound panels and do advanced settings after you've installed the driver. And then it lists all of your software that's running out, and you can tell it what output to use for that specific one. So if you want to, for your game, assign your game to have its output be the RodeCaster game, then it will do that. But what it can't, so you can assign things like that. But for Mac, we don't have the ability to do that. They don't have the new updated driver. But what I did notice, and I'm gonna go ahead and kind of get a little bit geeky here. So I'm running this software called, hold on a second. I messed that video up when I did that. Somehow I did something wrong. Okay, hold on. We're gonna get there eventually. Okay, here we go. Oh, no. You can't see my screen. This is the process of doing this all live. It is a little bit of a problem, but we'll get it there eventually. Oops, wrong thing. There we go. All right, so there we go. You get to see behind the scenes. So I'm using a software called Loopback. And the reason I use Loopback before was to kind of aggregate different devices together, create virtual devices. But what I did notice, so essentially you can have inputs and output, like a virtual output, and then you can monitor it. So what I did is I added the RodeCaster Pro main multi-track to it. And before I updated to the newest firmware, it just had a left and a right channel output. But now it actually input to it. But now it actually has 10 different channels. And so what I've been able to do is I've been able to figure out what those channels are. So what I've done is I've created a loopback device called RodeCaster Virtual Channels. And then I've done things like music, and I map that through to channel 5 and 6, and I map that out to 5 and 6 on the RodeCaster. And that ends up coming into the music channel. So I can use those channels. Again, I had to have the RodeCaster the Loopback software, because I wasn't able to do it just natively like you can in Windows yet. But with the Loopback software, I was able to essentially take any inputs. So let's say, for instance, so here's the mapping. So 1 and 2 are the main multi-track that we've always had. 3 and 4 are the game left and right. 5 and 6 are the music left and right. 7 and 8 are the A left and right, and 9 and 10 are the B left and right. So let's just say that I wanted to put Firefox into a channel, let's say B. So what I would do is I would delete the mappings that it automatically maps. And I'm going to say B, so that's 9 and 10. So what I'm doing is I go 9 and 10. And now when I play something through Firefox, it goes out virtual channel 9 and 10 and into the RodeCaster virtual, or 9 and 10, which also shows up as the B. So that's the way I can control different software going to different places with the Mac. Again, you have to have Loopback, and Loopback is a paid program, but it is definitely worth it because you can use this update now. What the other thing you can do too is any software that you have that has the channel mapping on it, you can use it too. So not every software allows you to choose what channels, but like something like Farrago, I can choose the main multi-track RodeCaster, and then I can choose which channels to put it out on for specific things or the whole program. So I could here say I wanted 5 and 6, and 5 and 6 are going to show up as the music left and right for my RodeCaster. So those two ways are ways that you can use your RodeCaster right now with your Mac, with the beta software, and assign it to the new virtual channels that I've talked about earlier. So the A, the B, the game, and the music with the programs like Loopback or Farrago, something that allows you to choose the channels to output. You can use the new virtual channels on the RodeCaster right now. So this is really exciting. This is really super exciting when it comes to things for podcasting, because you now essentially you had 3 channels before, and now you're adding 4 more for a total, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 7 virtual outputs now or virtual in and outs USBs coming from your computer that you can do in your RodeCaster. So you can assign different software to have inputs right now on your RodeCaster, and it's really, really cool. If you guys have any questions for me, I know that I see that people are watching on YouTube right now. Type them in the chat. I can try to answer those for you right now. But again, this is with the beta software that Rode released yesterday. It allows you to actually have 4 new virtual channels, virtual USB inputs. These are inputs only, not input and output like the previous 3 were. But you now have 4 extra inputs into your RodeCaster that you can use for for any software. So something like playing music, playing your games, whatever you want. They're labeled A, B, game, and music, but they're all the same. They're all the same. They're all virtual inputs, and you can see on my RodeCaster here now that I have them set up, and they have different icons, so A and B, and as well as the game and then the music. But they can be really used for anything that you want. They don't have to be used for those specific tasks, but you can bring in whatever you want. You can bring in any software. And again, this is for right now Windows only, but I did find the hack that allowed you to do it. And the hack would be using something like using something like Loopback here, which allows you to map any software into any of the channels on the RodeCaster output now. So again, I explained USB 1 and 2 output are USB 1 main left and right. 3 and 4 are the game left and right. 5 and 6 are the music left and right. 7 and 8 is A left and right, and 9 and 10 is B left and right. So that's the way you can assign that. Or you can also use something like Farrago or other channels or other software that allows you to choose the actual output channels of the device that you're using. You can then go ahead and be able to assign those to that. So again, this is really cool because you now have 7 inputs into your RodeCaster. You have the 3 that were there before, and you have 4 new virtual inputs that you can put in and attach to any of the faders that are on the RodeCaster. You can assign to any of the devices. So this is really cool, guys. If you have any podcasting questions that you'd like me to answer, that's what I do. I answer podcasting questions and help you start and grow your show. So if you have any questions, I would love to talk to you. You can get in contact with me over at podcastanswers.com/contact. And that'll get you in contact with me so I can help you start, grow, answer any podcasting questions that you have. I love helping podcasters. So again, that's podcastanswers.com/contact will get you over to me. And yeah, I'd love to help you out with any of the questions that you have for podcasting. Guys, whoop, I just realized that messed my thing up. Wow, I'm really having trouble today. All of my new scenes, I've got different scenes in here. So have a great week.